still. So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. So it's like myself and Paddy have tagged in and tagged out. He did the team sheet tantrum this morning, and I jumped on here, but never fear, all is good. Except for the result. Manchester United 0, Aston Villa 0, or Aston Villa 0, Manchester United 0, if you want to be pedantic about it. And a game that I don't think any of us are going to really want to go back and do too much trawling through that game to look for any reasons why. It's very evident, I think, the reasons why I suppose that game was as it wasn't of the highest quality. Yeah, I think that's probably the easiest way to say it. Aston Villa would have thought, I suppose, Aston Villa coming out of that game today would probably feel like they probably had more of the running of it. Although saying that, Manchester United dictated the tempo. 100% dictated the tempo of that game. And I think for the majority of this post-match, what I'm going to talk about is not really like there's no point going in and saying this player was bad, this player was good, this player was bad, this player was good, or whatever like that. Lads, we're coming off the back of a win against Bayern Munich. This was just there was a lot of play, I think, from both teams with regards to this. Like, I think Man United were, like, obviously the yellow card count heavily favours Manchester United, if I'm not mistaken. And I think, you know, losing Ezri Konsa early on in the game was not ideal for Aston Villa. But I think the bigger point of conversation with regards to this was that I think it's more so the setup of Unai Emery has had players that are starters and players that are finishers so far this season. And Ross Barkley has been one of those. And I'm not saying that he was poor today, but you could see the different dynamic that we had at times today, whereby we weren't able to muscle them off the ball and get the ball forward quick enough, which we should have been able to do. We should have been able to get the ball forward quicker, arguably, in this game today. But what they did an awful lot was they dropped their striker very deep. They didn't exactly go into a low block, and I'm expecting the comments to flood in there going, they were in a low block all game. Yeah, traditional low block or whatever you would call it. But what they were doing was just plugging the middle of the field quite obviously throughout the whole lot of the game so that they could filter us into areas outside. It's something that teams do to Unai Emery, or teams have done to Unai Emery. But what we've had is we've had a bit more pace to be able to outfox that. We've had a bit more of an opportunity to I suppose to move that ball at a quicker pace. But Manchester United dictated the pace today, as my mouse just turned off for whatever reason. They dictated the pace of this game today by clogging up the middle of the field there as well, by committing, you know, what was it, 2 minutes in, and Christian Eriksen gets a yellow card for pulling back Morgan Rogers. So like we were architects of our own downfall in some ways as well, by, you know, being sloppy and passing midfield. And we shouldn't have been. Having Tielemans and having Ross Barkley in there, we shouldn't have been sloppy in passing, but we were. And it was it's something that I think that we should that we should take note of, I suppose, but not put too much emphasis on, if that makes sense. Like, it's not something that I expect to see. It's like it's not like there shouldn't be any conversations about can Tielemans and Barkley start the game and play in the same midfield together. Nonsense after 90 minutes. Well, it's not. You guys can have a conversation about it. I'm just not going to entertain it. Because after 90 minutes of football, I don't think anybody should be. I've said this before. We shouldn't be making any snap judgments after 90 minutes, and we're not. We're not from that point of view. But I think that because that platform was a bit more turgid, should I say? I think that meant our front three or front four couldn't get going. Morgan Rogers was a bit off it today as well. Couldn't get into his stride an awful lot. even the shot he took was an un-Morgan Rogers-like shot. You know, well, it was really well hit, but it was just wide. You know, and you should really be hitting the target from that point of view. I thought Jaden Philogene was extremely defensive, and extremely conservative, and that's not a bad thing. But you can see maybe why he was favoured against Bayern Munich. He did cross a couple of balls in, but they weren't very good crosses, and obviously that falls to him at the end. After seeing the replay of it 3 times, I think he mishits the shot anyway, number one. I think that it would have been easily saved by Onana, but Diego Dalot has no clue what's happening there. It just hits him in the back. But look, it fell to him, and you know, he didn't convert it. But he wasn't bad today. I'm just saying he's a different type of player. Leon Bailey still looks injured. Wasn't electric today. He was getting the ball, standing still an awful lot as well. I felt that was kind of a hallmark of our play today as well, was that, you know, when Morgan Rogers, specifically in the first half when he was breaking through, he was like Morgan Rogers when he first came into the team. He was taking that extra touch and was maybe leaving himself a small bit open. Johnny Evans himself had a collision at one stage, they knocked knees together. But yeah, look, it's just one of these things. It's just one of these games. Like, there's no sweeping statements. I'm not going to make them. As I say, other people can if they wish. I just don't believe them to be true. Where we can castigate somebody and say, this player can only play on the left, this player can only play on the right, this player can't play in a front three. They have to play in a 4. This fella is going to be defensive all the time. It's just not the case. You know, it's just not the case so far. Or we can't say it is this case so far. We're a team that are coming off a massive high against Bayern Munich, and that can work in 2 ways. It can drive the team on to have a 6-0 win today, which it obviously didn't do, or it could lead to a bit of a lackluster situation. And Manchester United contributed to that as well. Like, we can sit here and we can say Aston Villa should be beating United based on their form, but Jamie Carragher said one of the most silly things today that I tweeted about. And Jamie Carragher said, everyone expected United to come here and lose heavily or lose easily or something along those lines. Like, what, like, genuinely, like, what historical marker? And this goes for every single person on Twitter that's going to start the tweets about XG. Every single historical marker with regards to this game points to Aston Villa being an underdog, regardless of form, regardless of and I'm not saying that we were, before anybody takes me up incorrectly here, but this game throws up results that heavily favour Manchester United. Even when Villa play well, even when Manchester United play poorly, this game has thrown up results where they've always dug it out of the fire, or they've always gotten more than maybe they deserved in this game. So to come up with that, I thought was a bit silly. And it was. Objectively, it was. Like, you can talk about recent form and so on. You also have a manager who coached his team to be ultra defensive today. And there are no mugs on that team. There are no mugs on that team. You know, everyone here, Kobbie Mainoo, everybody here, like, well, sorry, I won't say everybody here, but like, the whole English media sings his praise all the time. He's a good player. Christian Eriksen, fine player, absolutely very, very good players. It's a super career. Yeah, we can look at the 2 centre halves and say that they weren't what they should be, or that they were there for the taking. But Johnny Evans was man of the match, and I think rightly so. I think he was the best person on the field. And Johnny Evans, once again, let's go back to historical markers. Johnny Evans tends to have good games against Ollie Watkins. From memory, no, I'm open to correction on that one, but from my memory, tends to have good games against Ollie Watkins. And they went even more defensive, bringing on Lindelof, bringing on De Ligt, bringing on Casemiro. Obviously, that was really towards the end, but they were there for a point. Eric Ten Hag was there to save his job and not get humbled in that game today. Villa never looked like humbling him, but he was there to do a professional thing and stop Aston Villa from playing. And it led to a massive amount of sloppiness. Villa didn't help themselves. As I say, Barkley and Tielemans were pretty sloppy in the middle of midfield. Morgan Rogers was sloppy in possession when he was when he was coming forward. Ollie Watkins was sloppy in possession, was sloppy when he had 2 shots. I know there were only 2 shots, but you know, one of them goes over the bar. He should really be hitting the target with that one, and the other one then was one that comes to him and he just couldn't get his feet right and skied it over the bar. You know, just get him on target and give the keeper something to do. And as says I, and I'm sitting here 2 stone overweight, and couldn't run from here to the front gate without needing an oxygen tank. But still, you know, they're the criticisms that we could label at these players. We could label at our players today. And some of them will be true, and some of them will be deserved. But in the cold light of day, as I say, Manchester United came here for the game that they played. They came here for the game that they played, and Aston Villa couldn't break them down. And to me, the reason that this game was a poor game today was because Aston Villa couldn't get out of second gear, coupled with Manchester United's setup. You know, and that's what this team is going to have to learn. That's what we said last year. This team is going to have to learn, and it is what this team is going to have to learn in this coming year as well. And I think when you have results like Bayern, and when you have results like, you know, you go 2-0 down against Everton, then you come back and you win 3-2, and you know, you can see the goal early to Ipswich, and then you got 2-1 up, albeit that you draw 2-2. You know, I think that when you look at those games and you look at almost the excitement of those games and the fact that Villa hit stride in those games, and you're always kind of going, Villa have their purple patch here now, 20 minutes, half hour, and they'll do damage. And it just didn't happen in this game. And I think that's what makes it more stark when you watch a game like this. Makes it an awful lot more stark. I'm going to the referee. A lot of people were, me included, were kind of. I kind of had my head in my hands when I saw the referee that was appointed for today. Look, outside of the Marcus Rashford sending off, which was a sending off, should have been a sending off and wasn't given, and they gave him an opportunity to take him off directly afterwards. I can't really say that I was too annoyed with him. You know, I can't. Now other people might have an issue with him, and that's fine. I'm sure maybe we might hear that from Paddy tomorrow or the day after. But like, the sending off was a sending off. And look, it's a big thing that we shouldn't overlook. And I know that everybody's argument will be, but he got the one big call wrong. He did get it wrong, but there will be 40 referees in all around the world that will do exactly the same thing as Rob Jones did today, and will be more lenient than the second yellow card because he's only recently given the first one. That's not right. But that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes in every league in the world. So from that point of view, you can feel aggrieved, and I do. I will be honest. But also, removing myself from being an Aston Villa fan and looking at this, I can guarantee you, there's, for the love of Franco Baresi, AC Milan podcast, or for the love of Vitor Bahia, Porto podcasts, will be talking about stuff like this today as well in their native tongue. You know what I'm saying? Why didn't the referee give you a second yellow card? Should have been done. Happens the world over. Shouldn't happen, but it does, and it's happened time immemorial. And it's like I could be walking around with a cloud of thunder over me, but it's going to happen next week. It's going to happen the week after, and that's arguably 3 weeks in a row, 3 games in a row. Sorry, should I say 3 times in a week? What am I saying? 3 times in a week, arguably. Villa should have had a man sent off. They should have been playing against 10 men, and they didn't. Arguably, it cost us 2 points against Ipswich, and you could argue that it cost us 2 points as well today. So, yeah, it was a big call, and he did get it wrong. And I think everybody will agree with that. One other little piece, I suppose, really, because it's tough to talk about this one because there just wasn't areas of, it wasn't action packed, so there's not really to discuss really, other than kind of my feeling of probably where it all went wrong or whatever the case may be. But I think that there was that we saw Watkins and Duran up top together. There's two instances of John Duran just being John Duran today. Number one was the argument he had with Morgan Rogers. It seems like he gave out to Morgan Rogers just because he didn't have anyone bombing forward and to make a pass to. Now, who was right or who was wrong there, we'll never know. But there was a visible argument. You know, Rogers turned around and wasn't taking whatever Duran was saying to him. It happens a bit. People give out to John Duran. John Duran gives out back to them. And then there was another one where John Duran was miles out on the sideline and decides to have a cross. I'm going to be charitable and say that it was a cross, but it was wild, whatever it was. But they're just 2 John Duran pieces. But we got to see John Duran and Ollie Watkins up top today. And I feel this game, while I'm not averse to John Duran and Ollie Watkins, and as I said in my tweet, I actually called for it. I was sitting on the couch. I was there. Yeah, I would love to see that. Love to see John Duran and Ollie Watkins. After about 5 minutes, how deep Man United dropped, I kind of went, hindsight is 2020 here. This might have been one to bring on Matson and Bundia and bring on John Duran for Ollie Watkins and still stay with one up top. Just felt that the space was being very it was constricted space when we were one up top. Then we went two up top, it constricted even more. Xerxes was a complete another bollard out there at times, but he was a bollard in the middle of the field that we couldn't pass around. Arguably for only for that last chance that fell to Philogene, he was a bollard we couldn't pass around. And then when they brought on Casemiro, I thought that that was a real shut up shop exercise for them, which they were dead right to do. Just to see out the game for a manager fighting for his job. And that's kind of the way I kind of look at it, is that you can say that we created our best chance, which we did when Duran came on. We played two up top, but that was well into injury time, and we looked kind of stodgy before that. I just thought that maybe we could have, if Buendia was there trying to pull defenders out or trying to move around the two shielding midfielders that were in there at that stage, I just think it might have worked a bit better. But look, it's not a criticism of the substitution, but there was very much so a lack of impetus in the game once we went to two up top. I thought, you guys can disagree with me, but I thought that we almost began to try too hard, and obviously off ball drops to Philogene, and Philogene hits it and it comes off Dallow's back, and we'd be saying probably something different, and we'd have a different tenor to this podcast, a different tone to it, should I say. But yeah, look, one of those ones, hard to get up 4 days later or whatever, 3-4 days later. We should have been able to get up for sure 4 days later. We have an international break coming up. Be nice to get some people rehabbed. Nice to get Leon Bailey wrapped in cotton wool if he isn't going off with Jamaican duty. Be interesting to see what happens there. Same with Onana, get him wrapped up. Same with JJ, who wouldn't have been on duty anyway, get him wrapped up. And obviously Konza looks like now will be out for a bit. Look like a hamstring strain. Hopefully it's a strain and it's only somewhere between 1 to 3 weeks or whatever, and maybe he makes a recovery and he comes back. Maybe it was just some tightness that they didn't want to risk. Maybe he was carrying something coming into the game. Who knows? But if it's going to be a 4 to 6 weeker, that's not ideal. And yes, we probably will have horses coming back into the stable in the form of Boubacar Kamara and Tyrone Mings. But Ezri Konsa has been the one constant, and we don't want to be without him for a concerted period of time, because one thing I didn't mention was Matty Cash obviously being back in the team today. And, early on, Matty Cash gives the ball away to Rashford, I'm going to say, and almost concedes a chance, but, he fought back. I thought he was all right today. But once again, he was just at the same level as everybody else, and no one really put their head above the parapet or stood out, and everybody was sloppy today. So I wouldn't be able to single out Matty Cash from that point of view. But very, very good to see him back on grass. Very good to have a recognised right back in there. And over this international break now, it'll be great to kind of get the team to rest up when they need to rest up, and also gel and do a small bit of shape work as well with that defense, because that defense has been a rotating gallery at the moment. Faces coming in there in different positions, with Ezri Konsa and Luka Dean being the only two Ezri Konsa and Luka Dean really being the only two constants, and I suppose Torres as well. But it'd be nice to just get some shape work done on that defense. Not that it was of concern at all today, but look, that's 2 clean sheets in a row. But we have to start keeping clean sheets in the league and not having it affect our goal scoring prowess up top as well. So look, wrap them all in cotton wool. Come back. We live to fight another day. You can look at this and say that we haven't won in 2 in the Premier League, and you have that slant in it, or you can look at this and you can say that we're undefeated since losing to Arsenal in the Premier League, which is actually the truth also. So I don't know what way people or what way the media are going to spin this one, but I think that I think that Aston Villa should to some degree go away and lick their proverbial wounds, I suppose, with regards to this. Heads out of the gutter. I was always going to say wounds, I just couldn't get it out of my mouth. Of not getting 3 points here and going into the going into the international break with 3 points. But as I've said, and as I started or nearly started with, historically this game hasn't been kind to us. And yes, we go another year without a win at home against Manchester United, but at least it wasn't a loss. And I know coming off the form that we've shown this season so far, we shouldn't be settling for draws against teams like Manchester United or where Manchester United are. But from a professional point of view, coming away with from this game with a draw there and not having one of those habitual, almost late last minute fucking goals from the Scott McTominay, obviously was no longer there, or that like Victor Lindelof didn't decide to stride forward and play a ball out to Garnacho and catch somebody with the high line, and then Garnacho slots it past Emi Martinez. That didn't happen today, and but for and only for Bruno Fernandes free kick, which comes off the crossbar, which Emi Martinez probably had anyway if it was underneath it. Then we look comfortable enough in this game today. I'm going to leave it at that. We will probably be back later in the week earlier, should I say, in the week. I get Paddy on just to discuss this. I don't really have anything lined up. This is the first international break that I don't have anything lined up. And reason being is that life is getting hectic at the minute, and I may need to just take 10 days just to refresh myself and make sure that work and my work life and my family life balance and everything like that is back in order again, because it's been pretty hectic. So I can't sit here and profess that we're going to have podcasts all the way through the international break. I do have an idea for one podcast, but we'll have to see where we go with regards to that. I don't know how hectic things are going to get over the next few days. But as always, I want to say thanks a million to everybody for jumping on directly after the game and for chatting and for popping in the chat. I meant to say at the start, I'm using different software here because my audio has been poor on the normal software that I've used, so I can't see chats very well. And even if I pop them up here on the screen, I can't really see them very well. So apologies to everybody. I will be working over the next 2 weeks to make sure that whatever glitch on the software that I normally use is fixed, and I can use it with my audio setup. Because for the time being, it just won't let me change my audio credentials, and I have to sign into a completely different browser, and that's a bit of a pain. Because when I do that, then everything else changes, and blah blah blah. I won't bore you with the technicalese of my situation. But thanks a million, everybody, for bearing with me over the last couple of weeks with regards to that. Hopefully, we'll have it fixed coming out of the international break. And in the meantime, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say, if my mouse will work, because might have to try this again. I have to try this again. Where's my mouse? Mouse not working now as well. Everything is falling apart. My setup. Anyway. Okay. And all that's left to say, everybody, is up the Villa. And I still can't click it. Wait a minute. Is there any way to end the podcast? We might have to podcast all the way through the international break, guys, because I don't know if I can end it. Wait a minute. Let's see. Let's try this here. Yes, now this might do it. And all that's left to say, third time lucky, is up the Villa.